Jairus, the synagogue official, desperate for the life of his child, falls on his knees in front of Jesus, pleading for her. And then, at Jesus' words, he finds the strength to stand up and to walk with Jesus and the crowd to his house. The woman suffering the hemorrhage falls on her knees, hoping if she could just touch his clothes, that she would be freed of this affliction. And then she was able to stand up, refreshed and renewed and healed. The little girl was able to stand up after having lying there, dying and dead. Stand up, arise, Jesus says to the little girl. Another dynamic in this gospel passage is that the woman disobeyed the boundaries of the Torah when she reached out to touch his clothes. Leviticus said she's unclean. Any woman with a flow of blood was unclean. And you make anyone unclean if you touch them. She disregarded the boundaries set for her out of the desperate need to be healed. Jesus disregarded the dictates of the law when he touched that corpse. Now he's unclean. You could get unclean in a lot of ways in the Old Testament. But he disregarded it. He disobeyed the law for the greater good. I remember the story of John Lewis when he was a teenager and beginning to get involved in civil rights stuff. And his parents were saying, John, behave. John, don't get in trouble. Don't get in trouble, John. The philosophy of his life became make good trouble. Make good trouble. Sometimes we have to stand up and find it within ourselves the strength we need. In all of this, I think underlying it all is what Jesus said to the synagogue official. Do not be afraid. Have faith. Do not be afraid. If we can eliminate or at least dissipate some of the fear that we have, who knows how much good we can do. So much of our, sometimes even our Christian life, our church life, was based on fear. I know as a child growing up, the idea of missing Mass on Sunday, we're afraid of going to hell. Hey, geez, I don't want to do that, Fear sometimes was the driving force in our world, and sometimes even in our faith life. But Jesus says to Jairus, don't be afraid. Because you can imagine when the news came that his daughter had died, you could just see his body slump, and all his hopes dashed. And Jesus says, no, Jairus, don't be afraid. Stand up, man. We're going home. Go into your house. And there, that little girl, at the word of Jesus, arose, stood up. And then Mark adds that really compassionate phrase at the end. And by the way, give her something to eat. The kindness just flows from Jesus. Give her something to eat. As you can imagine, a dying child hasn't eaten in a while. Jesus has enough sense to say, she's alive. Now, let's restore her to full health. One of the lessons that I take from the scripture today is how important it is to stand up. it's important to stand up, based in our faith and not afraid. We need to stand up for peace. In a world racked with evil, the book of Wisdom talks about this isn't what God designed. God didn't design all this destruction. So we need to stand up in any way we can, pleading for peace. We need to stand up for the earth as it suffers, Mother Earth, how it's being gradually destroyed. We need to stand up with our Pope for this world of ours, to try to make a difference, combat what's destroying us. We need to stand up for people who are poor. We need to stand up for people who have been pushed aside by the society or the church. We need to stand up for people who have been pushed to the margins and left there. We need to stand up for justice wherever we see what's unjust, to stand up, to find our place. Now I know any one of you cannot take on all the things of this world's needs. But I think it's important that we find a way to stand up for something where we will give some of our time, our energy, even our finances, to help make a difference in the world. There is so much healing needed among so many people. It's not just the 12-year-old girl. It's not just that woman and her 12 years of suffering. There's so many people suffer and need healing, need a sense of hope and a renewal of their faith. I see in the scripture today a call for all of us to rely on our faith and to put fear aside and not even to worry about so much if we're going to break somebody's rules, if we're going to be doing what is holy and what is just. Stand up, Jesus said to Jairus. Stand up, he said to the woman. Stand up, he said to that young girl. That maybe is the only thing I ask you to remember from the homily today. I know I can't ask too much. But stand up. You might be able to remember that. Stand up for what you deeply believe in. Put your actions where your faith lies. And do that as a disciple of Jesus, as one who has abundantly been blessed. As Paul says in the second reading today, you folks have been so blessed. I'm calling upon you now for an act of charity to help the church in Jerusalem. You've got a lot right now. They don't have anything. Help them. Stand up for them. There's so many ways that we might be able to do this. So as we continue with our celebration of Eucharist today, and as we, more importantly, when we walk out the door today, we stand up for what we believe, we stand up for what people need from us in the rest of this day and in the coming days. We've all experienced some kind of healing ourselves from various maladies and spiritual illness, whatever. Let's draw upon that and be advocates for those who still need that depth of healing in our world.